Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm thrilled to be talking to Marion Cotillard all about season 4 of The Morning Show. And I know that you were such a huge fan of the show and you kind of blitzed through the first couple of seasons
Yeah.
in just a few days. And I was interested in how just having already been a fan of the show really helped you in developing Celine as a character and kind of figuring out how is she going to fit into the overall world building that's already taken place over 3 seasons of the show.
Well, I don't know if being a fan of the show helped me, but I knew that the writing is so good in this series that I trusted 100% where they would lead my character because the difference between a movie and a TV series, because it's the first time I do a TV series. When I do a film, I have the full script and I can build the character from all the information that I have in the script. When I started the morning show, I had 4 episodes and I didn't know where it would lead me. I didn't know where my character would go. I didn't know the choices she would make. I didn't know the relationships she would develop. So I was kind of a little bit anxious, but at the same time, it was kind of exciting. I like new things. I like, like new experiences. It was really new for me to like jump in without knowing where my character would end up to. So, but not helping me, but being like so excited, and like it was so, there's something always like kind of fresh to be excited. I mean, I'm always excited when I start a project, but this one, like just the simple fact to be in front of Corey Ellison or, and even the sets of the network, I was kind of a child being in a world that I had admired so much and then suddenly be part of it. It was so exciting.
I love that, and it completely makes sense. And also wanted to ask you about the research that you did, because I know that you spent a lot of time researching and reading books about prominent business families, and in particular looking at the women in their family and how they had to kind of achieve success in a very different way, such as the book Successions that you were reading at one point. And I was interested in, some of the facets that really carried through into Celine for you.
Well, what was interesting in the books that I read from those 2 journalists from a newspaper that is one of the most famous newspaper in France, which is called Le Monde. And those 2 journalists, Raphaël Baquet and Vanessa Schneider, they explored like the big wealthy French families and how they organized the succession. And what was really striking was the place of the women in that world that is really more manly than, more men in power than women, and how a daughter will like claim her place and have to fight more because she's not the kind of natural successor. So it was very interesting for me to see all those stories and to read all those stories about women and how they won her place when the sons doesn't have to have this big of a fight to win a place that is like more natural again, for them.
No, exactly, and it's even the fact of she's working in a very male-dominated field as well, and so you kind of get this sense that she's adapted into her circumstances in certain ways, and maybe she started out with a certain idealistic view of who she was going to be in the business world, and it's become a little bit different over time. And I think one of the things that's great about Celine is we see that push and pull, and I was interested in the layers that and textures that really gave the character for you.
Um, well, the complexity of this character is that she's in charge. She has a lot on her plate. Um, and also she has to prove herself. She has to prove herself in the new environment she evolves in. Also, she has to prove herself in the eyes of her family and particularly her father. And and at the same time, she is rebellious. Her decisions, like the decisions that she's taken over, I mean, her whole life are some of them against, the opinion or the will of her family. And so she's struggling in a way to like go straight on the road that is, that is built for her to be on, but doesn't totally belong to her. And at the same time, she's so rebellious that it creates like this fight inside of her, and the complexity of this character is so interesting for an actor, obviously.
Yeah. Do you think that plays into the dynamic that she has with Corey? Because, he's someone that she's known for a long time and she can kind of poke fun at him and laugh at him and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot how much you talk all the time, but also there's a side to him and his scrappiness and that same kind of rambunctious rebellion that he has as well. And did you feel like that was part of the connection of their friendship?
Yeah, totally. I think they're very similar. um Again, a lot to prove, a lot to keep, but inside this very peculiar personality that won't fit in. But still, they have to fit in a certain world, but also the power allows him to, I mean, give them the opportunity to have, things made their own way, which is interesting in power, but which is also questioning, especially when you work in the world of media, because it's powerful and it can be manipulative. So how do you use this power when you're powerful and a little bit twisted?
There's also an element of chemistry between the two of them, and it's not something where anybody's ever crossing a line or saying certain things, but you kind of get that sense that there's always been that little pull between them. And I was interested in how you just found the level of chemistry that you wanted to exist between them, but again, kind of making sure that it still always felt like a platonic friendship throughout the time that she's with Miles as well.
Yeah, yeah, they have this kind of, so I the only thing is that I don't remember where we're at on the fourth episode. But yeah, they're the three of them are friends, and they went through a lot of craziness back in the days. And I've known Billy for years. We worked together twice, and I adore him, and we have this connection that is so natural that we didn't have to like create something that wasn't already there. And also, he's one of my favorite characters on the show, so I was so excited to get to have, like a strong connection with him. And but it was just very easy because he's an amazing guy. He's so fun. He's brilliant. He's an amazing actor on top of that. So it was just like I really didn't have anything to do, just to be there and enjoy my time with him.
I've also heard you say with Billy that one of the things that you love about working with him is you feel like as actors, you come with a very similar sensibility and approach. And I was interested in what is that particular shared sensibility and approach that the two of you find with each other?
Um, Things that I can explain and things that are more mysterious, like yeah, like our sensibility. And But what I can explain is that I know that he's a hard worker. I know that he prepares a lot for a character and a movie that he's going to be part of. researching if and inventing, like letting his imagination like give him the what will feed the character, what will make the character interesting, consistent, alive. And I love that part of the work where you prepare just yourself with yourself and the character, and in a way you give life and flesh and blood to a writing. Um, so yeah, I and something more mysterious, like just being on set with someone and feeling that we're the same kind of animal, like the instinct that we have is very similar. The instinct of how to how to approach a character and how to, yeah, make this character alive. I feel that this is very similar.
It's wonderful. And I also love in the way that you're playing Celine. The analogy is almost kind of like when you see a duck on a lake and you see the stillness and the poise on top, but you know that underneath the legs are just channeling away under the water. And that's very much what Celine feels like, because you feel these moments of the emotion underneath, or the fragility, or the inner turmoil and stress and tension. And yet she's very still, and she kind of understands when saying less is going to give her more power. And even just the way that you physically hold yourself in scenes. I was interested in how you found all of that within her.
Um, I don't come from the same social level from her at all, but through my career as an actress, I had the opportunity to meet people like her, coming from a lot of money. And there's this sense of ease that I saw in many women in that like world, but that ease most of the time hides a lot more tumult. And so I was inspired by a lot of people that I met in my life. Um, And yeah, I love this image of, and especially when you have like a very powerful, seat at the table and you're in charge and you need to be trusted and you need the people to think, oh, yeah, she is powerful. Oh, she's in charge and it's gonna be done. I mean, things are gonna be done and well done. And at the same time, you have so many things to prove. You have so many things to achieve um, in a world where you can be fired in like 2 minutes in one word. So there's this tension. And that's like the most interesting characters to build, where someone tries to hide the tumult and hide it well, but inside it can like blow and ruins everything.
And there's also the added aspect of all of that, which is the speed of thought that you have to kind of portray, because we really see and understand her as someone who always tries to think 10 steps ahead. When Stella comes to her and says, "Oh, we should make a deal with Corey for a film studio, it's going to be good for the company," she doesn't go, "Oh, that's a great idea." She's like, "Well, what does he have on you that you're coming to me and presenting this? And how do I get ahead of it?" And so, how did you set about trying to, externalize or portray the idea of the way that her mind is just always moving 100 miles a minute?
Well, the material that we have is so brilliant and so well written that you don't have much to do. You just have to like follow what they give you to say. Everything is there. And that's why I love this show. It's because it's brilliant and so well written, and the characters are so well built that I have to say it's easy. You don't have much to do, but just like feel what you say.
And in talking about the end of episode 4, where Corey tells her what it is that he knows from Stella and ultimately about her husband's infidelity, I think you played that scene so beautifully because, we understand that she's responding emotionally when she hears that news, but she's kind of really holding everything in tightly. And it's not till he leaves the room that we see more of it coming through. But even then, she's aware that she's in her workplace and anyone could step into her office at any moment. And I was interested in how the writing on the page really helped you to find just that level of emotion, but also restraint in that scene.
We tried different versions. Um, we tried totally hiding. And that was interesting that day. I love that day. I love when we have the time to explore because yes, you can have many reactions. You can um but then I didn't know what they would choose actually. And I saw because I did the French version, so I saw that they had chosen something emotional. And that's what I love about Celine, that even if someone enters the room and sees her in that state, she will use it. And the fact that she uses everything that comes her way, even something like super genuine, emotional, or um, she will use anything she can to move forward. Um, and yeah, I love the fact that she's still human also.
And she kind of has this real understanding of how hard it is to trust people in the world that she exists in. Do you think she's someone who ultimately has almost a loneliness to her because of that? Because, she understands that everybody's trying to figure out who they can trust. And, she's kind of one of the first people to figure out when she can't trust people because of her intelligence.
Yeah, and also she's a foreigner. She has something to prove because if she didn't have this family, would she be there? So she comes from like a story and judgments that she knows people will have from her. So she has more to prove because she's a foreigner, she's a woman, she comes from this wealthy family. So there's a lot she has to deal with.
Yeah. And I don't want to give spoilers away for the storyline, but we do meet her brother later in the season. And I was interested in what that really brought up in Celine for you because you kind of get to see firsthand the competitiveness and the way that she's kind of always been put second to him by their family.
Yeah. Well, that's what we started with. The natural successor would be the son. And so their relationship is so twisted.
Mhm.
Like they could maybe love each other, but they don't. They're in competition. They want to have daddy on their side. They want to be the first in the heart of the family. They want to be the smartest. They want to be the most successful kid of the family. So their relationship is like pretty ugly, but it's so interesting.
And lastly, I just wanted to ask you about working with the dialogue in these scripts, because as you said, they're so brilliantly written, but there's also such a fast pace. You have all of these rooms full of really intelligent people who are talking incredibly fast. Corey always has these lengthy monologues to deliver. And, I was just interested in what it was like working with the text in that way and finding the pace for Celine.
Super stressful, considering that even in French, I need to learn my lines ahead of the shooting. I need to learn them, digest them, forget them, and then learn them again. But sometimes we had an episode and then we would shoot like 2 weeks later. And 2 weeks is already a really short time for me. So sometimes it was, I mean, no, all the time. It was super stressful. I work with a dialect coach. I've been working with her for 18 years, 17 years. So I love her technique and she helped me and she knew how stressful it was for me. But then as soon as I had a script, I would work like all day long when I was not shooting. I was actually gardening and learning my lives and telling my lives over and my lines over and over and over again. And the difficulty would be when I would arrive on set and they would change a line or add a line at the last minute. That was super stressful because I wanted to give them what they wanted to have. And sometimes I was like stumbling because it was new and it was not like digest. So it was super stressful, I have to say. But that's the way it is. And it's also, you learn a lot about yourself and how you adapt yourself to like stressful or new situations. Um, with this desire to please the people you work with because you're so grateful to be there with them and again to give them what they want and what they need. So sometimes it was like some days I was super stressed out.
Well, you've done such a brilliant job. I really love your portrayal of Celine, and it's such a great story arc throughout the season. So I know people are really going to enjoy it. Thank you so much, Marianne.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.